Yo, what is up, everybody? It's boy Soto here with the Autumn Windbags, back with another one. Yeah. So it's a beautiful Saturday day. Got a lot of shit done early in the day. I got something to do later today. I got a gap of time in the middle of the day. So I said, why not spend it here with you guys? So, you know how we do. Before we go any further, everybody make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps our channel out a lot. Right now, I'm on YouTube. I'm on my Twitter, and I'm also live on Twitch. I'm trying to try different things, But yeah, we'll see how this all works out. So later today, it's my cousin's stepdaughter, I believe. Yeah, my cousin's stepdaughter's 18th birthday, and it's gonna be out there. Trust me, it's gonna get pretty crazy, which is good because I deserve to let my hair down every once in a while. It should be a good time. Um, so happy birthday. And I mean, there's a lot I want to talk about today, but we got to make sure we keep it concise, okay? Because I don't want to get too far off topic. It's just a lot, okay? So here's what we're gonna do first. There was the hell am I doing here? There we go. There was a development yesterday in the NFL, in the running back market. Basically, what happened was Joe Mixon of the Cincinnati Bengals, who was like the third highest paid running back in the NFL, right? His guaranteed money is been used up already. He signed a 4-year deal 2 seasons ago in 2020. And all his guaranteed money was in the first 2 years, like it normally is. And he was set to make like 9.5 this year in base salary, 10.1 in like total cash with like roster bonus, workout bonus, all that other stuff, right? But his cap hit was like $12 million. Okay. Joe Mixon goes ahead and restructures the last 2 years of his deal for $10 million less than what the contract was. It's normal. It happens a lot. But you have to take a look at a couple things. Number one, he is a running back. He is a very highly paid running back. And believe it or not, this is the first successful contract restructuring the Cincinnati Bengals have done. Now, I read that on The Athletic, and it's hard to believe. But no, it's the first contract restructuring done by the Bengals ever. People just usually walk. Like, oh yeah, you don't want to pay me on my contract because the money is like non-guaranteed. Well, then just cut me and I'll go sign somewhere else. That's normally what happens with the Bengals. But they restructured it. What does that say? Just a couple things. The third highest paid running back this season restructured his contract for the next 2 seasons. Now he's going to make $10 million less. It shows that the running back market is not as strong as it was even 2 years ago. That's one thing. Another thing is the league just wants to go young at running back. They don't want to spend a ton of money on that position if you're a veteran. And it's not like Joe Mixon is old by any means. And there are some contributing factors to what's going on here. First off, and the most importantly for the teams, Joe Mixon did see a little bit of a regression last year from the year before, in 22 from 21. Okay. That's probably the biggest reason why. On top of that, Joe Mixon was charged. What was a charge? Aggravated menacing in April for allegedly pointing a gun at some lady. But that's secondary. That's way secondary. Joe Mixon was caught on film knocking a chick out in college, and he still got drafted. So teams really don't care about that stuff. But don't believe what they try to sell you. They really don't care about that off the field stuff. As long as he's not going to be in trouble, it's not a really big deal. It's the on-field production that's the big deal. So you take a look at that situation, and you kind of, you see what happened with Eckler. He wanted a bigger deal, and he was chirping. Nothing happened. Mixon was going to get paid big money the next 2 seasons, and they're like, well, Mixon, guess what? We don't need you. We'd like to have you, but not at this money. And Mixon saw the climate out there. You see Zeke and Fournette and Cook and a bunch of other running backs out there without jobs. And he's like, you know what? I don't know if I want to get out there. I would rather just sign my deal and get these next 2 years mostly guaranteed. I think what happened was this year he's making just under $6 million from probably 10. So he took a big cut this year. Next year's going to be just as big because it's about 10 million in for 2 years. So I hear a lot going on, like in the comments section, a lot of stuff going on Twitter, where it's like a huge, like it's almost like drawing a line for a debate, and it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be an issue that separates us. It's just how you look at things. The thing that we need to really, we need to realize, what we really need to realize here is what is actually going on. Now, I hear a lot of things, and I'll address that in a second. But ultimately, we don't know what has been offered to Josh Jacobs in the form of a contract. We do know he was offered one, aside from the franchise tag. We don't know what Josh Jacobs has been asking for. Like, no idea. Presumably, it's more than the 13 and change that Bijan Robinson is getting this year per year because he wants to be the highest paid running back, right? But we don't know for sure. What I think is if you're leaning one way, you're like, oh, the front office is garbage. They don't want to keep their players, and they're alienating the locker room and blah, 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 and this and that. You have no idea what's going on. None. Zero idea. The Raiders are so freaking buttoned up. They don't let shit leak. Okay? And the other side, the people that are like, oh, Josh Jacobs is just being a crybaby. You can't pay it, right? We don't know what was being offered. I don't. This is I said it on Twitter. This is a very delicate situation here because a lot of things are at play, and there's a lot of unknown variables. So it's almost like impossible to solve the equation because there's so many variables that you can't account for. Okay. What we do know is Eckler, I think he has the most touchdowns out of any running back last year, didn't get a pay raise. Mixon took a pay cut. You have players like Zeke and Leonard Fournette and Cook, and there's a bunch of running back, veteran, productive veteran running backs out there that can be a leading rusher for a team, just sitting there with no job. Okay. Double D, you're exactly right. There are some teams that care about off the field drama, but they care. That's like the cherry on top. The bulk of it is production. Trust me. Kele Makahanalao. Did I say it right? Thank you for the $2 super chat. I appreciate it. If you have a question, man, go ahead and ask away. I'll go ahead and give you first dibs, man. I appreciate you. So I see a lot of back and forth on Twitter where people that are like fully behind this regime are saying that Josh Jacobs is being greedy and that this is the market and blah, 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 and this and that. There's one side. The other side that no matter what they do, this regime is just pieces of shit. Oh, they're alienating the locker room and this and that, blah, blah, blah. Look, I highly doubt that a front office is going to treat a reigning rushing champion unfairly. Now, they may offer them a contract that is lower than what Josh Jacobs is looking for, but I don't think we're going to categorize it as unfair. Now, granted, I haven't seen what they've offered him. It doesn't strike me right that they would do that. Okay, we'll start from there. Because there are reports, I've seen it in multiple places. Now, this is all rumor, but they're rumors. You never know what's right and what's wrong, but I mean, we can kind of see what's up. Reports are that Josh Jacobs and the Raiders are still very far apart on a deal. Okay, get it. Other reports, so there's two different reports. They're very far apart on the deal still, blah, blah, blah. Again, we don't know what was offered, and we don't know what Josh Jacobs is asking for. Other reports are that Josh Jacobs isn't happy with the offseason and doesn't want to come back. Okay. That's possible. It is very difficult. It is very difficult to pin down just because, again, there's so many unknowns. If this is true, if Josh Jacobs really doesn't want to come back to the Raiders, then this has all been a big smokescreen, and this has all been a bunch of a big circle jerk and a bunch of bullshit on his part, talking about bad business and I'm doing this for the running backs of the future. But if all that is bullshit, I'm not saying it is. I'm not saying it isn't. I'm saying if all that is bullshit, what's happening here is probably Jacobs is like, I want 16 a year with 60% of it fully guaranteed and blah, blah, blah. And this, that. He's just asking for an absurd amount of money. The Raiders aren't going to negotiate in public, and they're not going to give him that much. So they're going to offer him what they feel is a fair deal. But the fact that we didn't get him signed, some people in Raider Nation are so against this regime, no matter what happens, it's going to be their fault. Even though in this scenario, I don't think anybody here would give him $16, $17 million a year. Any running back that much money in this climate. Okay. If it's false, I see the Mixon and Eckler and all these things. I see that those kind of those transpirings affecting the deal by Jacobs and maybe even Saquon Barkley. When you see highly productive running backs, getting paid less and not getting that big jump in money that they're looking at when it comes to, like, let's say, quarterbacks and edge rushers and stuff like that. I think they want that same increase with running back. And I've said it a billion times, man. There are too many young running backs on rookie deals that are highly productive. There are too many of them. If there were a ton of highly productive young quarterbacks on rookie deals, guess what? These veterans hitting their first big contract wouldn't being paid the money that they are. It's just the way it is. Now, I understand, keeping a locker room, and I understand being fair. But the issue that we're running into a lot of times is we're assuming a lot of things. Now, I'm not saying these reports are true. I'm not saying they're not true. What I'm saying is you have to follow the breadcrumbs. Now, what do we know for sure? What we know for sure is I'm not saying that veterans in the NFL don't like to work. I'm not saying that whatsoever. I'm actually saying that once veterans see what it takes to be successful in the NFL and they're still hungry and they still want to improve, they're going to actually work harder into their career than they did maybe at the beginning. It's possible. And it's more likely that way. Once you see older players who are working hard, it's like, man, why you work so hard? Well, I have to keep up. Okay, I get that. But we also know that veterans really don't like training camp. They don't like being told where to go, where to sleep, what to do, when to be inside, when to work out. None of that. They don't like to be told things if they don't have to. Now, we also know that running back is probably the easiest position on the field to just jump in. Like, you can jump in a couple days beforehand, learn the new calls, the new blocking scheme calls and the new checks and all that stuff, and you're good. You know the running play. You know what hole you need to hit. You know how to run. You have your instinct still. So what I'm saying is this. Not all hope is lost if Josh Jacobs doesn't sign by the 1 p.m. Monday deadline. We're like 47 hours and 43 minutes away from the deadline. It is what it is. Get some water. It is what it is, man. Now, the issue that we're running into is, again, we may never know what was asked for and what was offered. But I highly doubt it was some insulting figure. I understand where Josh Jacobs and Saquon Barkley are coming from. And they're right. The NFL is naturally keeping the running back market dollar low by constantly franchise tagging the top players. Because when you franchise tag somebody, it's an average. So you don't pay them over the top one, right? So you franchise tag them for a year, and that keeps it under control for another year. And then let's say the following season, if you were to pay them a little bit more money, the franchise tag moves up a little bit. Another crop of running back eligible players are franchise tagged. And it just, instead of getting more, it keeps it lower. I understand what they're saying. It's tough because there's a stat. There was 17, I think in the last 10 years, there's been 17 running backs that have signed a contract after their rookie contract. So their first big contract, their second contract, right? 17 players have signed a contract that is 4% or more of the salary cap average per year. 17 of them. 75% of those running backs in the next 2 seasons, either one of those seasons hasn't eclipsed what they did in the previous 3 seasons. So what that says is most of the time, 3/4 of the time, when you sign a running back to a big money deal, you're not going to get more from that running back than you've gotten in previous seasons. You're going to get less production than you've gotten in previous seasons. Now, that does mean that, a quarter of them have exceeded, right? But 3/4, that's a big number, man. it's a big change for us because, and we're going to get to this in a second. So I want you guys to keep this conversation about Josh Jacobs and about what he's being offered and the money moving forward. I want you to keep that in your minds, okay? Because we're going to talk about something else right now. PFF ranked all the NFL teams in their cap health, what they call cap health, over the next 3 seasons. So 23, 24, and 25. Now, a lot of different metrics were brought into play for overall cap health, because overall cap health just isn't just how much money do you have to spend on the cap. It's also stuff like dead money. How many young players do you have under contract for long periods of time? How many free agents do you have coming up, and do you have to resign, and who do you have to replace, and blah blah blah. So there's a lot of things go involved, and I will try to cover as much of it as I can and make as much sense as I can of this. Michael Rain III, it's interesting question. Can Zeus have even half the production that Jacobs had? So can he have like 750 yards this year? I think so. I mean, how many carries did Josh Jacobs have last year? You give those carries to Zeus, I think he can do it. He can do at least half. More than likely, a lot more than that. I mean, look, guys. One of the things that I heard about Zeus was that, oh well, he got the bulk of his yards on like 2 or 3 carries. Well, you know, Josh Jacobs was a leading rusher in the NFL last year, and a quarter of his carries were for 1 yard or less. So what does that tell you? That tells you that, you know, you just got to keep grinding. You're going to get 1 yard, 3 yards, 4 yards, 1 yard, 12 yards, 8 yards, 1 yard, 3 yards, 4 yards, 1 yard, 12 yards. You know, this is how it works. So the fact that Zeus wasn't able to get into a rhythm in a game, he wasn't able to get like a steady amount of carries to kind of have a feel for his offensive line and how they block and how to set things up properly, you know, for that specific line. I mean, I don't see that being a problem. All right, so keep all that stuff in mind. Let's see what else we got over here. A lot of greetings, everyone. Jumpman 23, true Soto people like Wi-Fi Willie and Mikey Raider got cars chalk strap on their face and they can't help. Listen, man, be nice, Jumpman. I appreciate you, man. I appreciate the backup, but dude, we all have our opinions, right? Do I honestly agree with like shitting down the Raiders' neck at every turn because you're mad about something they did last offseason? No, I don't believe in that. I believe in that looking how we can look at what we're doing now with the most objective eye and how we can move forward. That's exactly what this PFF article was about how healthy is your roster moving forward. So let's take a look at it, okay? All right. So put your thinking caps on, people. I'm going to give you some numbers, but I'm going to make it make sense, okay? Trust me. I'm not a huge numbers guy either. I'm more of a this is what I see guy, but the numbers back that up. So I'm going to try to make this as simple to digest as possible for you guys, okay? Not because you're dumb, but because you don't have the article right in front of you. I pay for PFF, so you don't have to, okay? All right. So overall, the Raiders ranked 31st in cap health over the next 3 seasons. Okay, I got a super chat. Nate Dogg, thanks for the super chat, player. Appreciate you, man. What quarterback would you draft next year besides the main 2? Oh man, there's Penix. There's the guy from Texas with a fucking strong ass arm. Ewers, I think his name is Ewers. Penix is good. There's a couple other guys. There's a lot of quarterbacks in the draft next year. Trust me, guys. Nate Dogg, write this down on 1:25 p.m. on 7/15/2023. When the draft starts happening, there's going to be buzz about 6 6 legit quarterbacks in the draft, and it's going to be like, wow, this is one of the best quarterback classes in a long time. Trust me on that. There's going to be a lot of good quarterbacks, not just the big two. Now, freaking May and Caleb Williams, those guys are freaking studs, but don't get it twisted. There's a lot of good quarterbacks that are going to come out this year. That dude from Michigan, I think he's okay. He's going to be in the 4, 5, 6 range around there, but there's a lot of other guys that are going to be available too. Okay, here we go. Back to this. I get sidetracked a lot because you guys, give me such good questions. Great job. Keep them coming. Okay, so PFF ranked the Raiders 31st in cap health over the next 3 seasons. A lot of stuff has gone into that. I'm going to take a look at their criteria and break it down for you, okay? All right. One of the criteria they used was their top 51 veteran evaluation. All right? Their top 51 veteran evaluation. Now, why the top 51? Many of you guys don't know this, but only the top 51 paid players on a roster count against your salary cap. Okay? All right. So, what does that mean? Well, kind of like an incentive for teams to carry 90 players on their roster, right? With like the expanded practice squad and reserve players and blah, 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 and this and that. So they want the teams to carry 90 players on their rosters, okay? To help them do that, what they do is the NFL only counts the top 51 salaries, dollar-wise, cap hit-wise, against their cap. So that's why the PFF ranked the top 51 veteran evaluation. So the veteran players on each team. So not counting the rookies yet. The Raiders ranked 19th. Pretty much the bottom third, but at the very top of the bottom third. Why does that matter? Well, what this means is what production are you getting from the players that are in your top 51? Are you getting a ton of production from players that are out of your top 51, meaning guys that are coming off the streets? Now, that's a good thing. You're paying really low price for players that are being productive, but in the inverse, you're also paying a lot more for players that aren't being productive. You see that makes sense? And normally, a lot of the players that are making more money are on longer contracts. The players that are making less money, the guys you got off the street, like, undrafted free agents, those are making less money and they're on shorter contracts. So that's why it makes a big difference. Here's a stat for you. This is why it matters. That out of the top 10 teams that had a high veteran valuation, so numbers 1 through 10, 6 out of those top 10 made the playoffs last year. In the inverse, only 3 of the bottom 10 made the playoffs. So you're twice as likely to make the playoffs if you have a high veteran valuation, which means you get good production out of the players that you're paying good money to. That's how you win games, and that's how you make the playoffs. You identify the right players, and you pay the right players. Now, the middle, for you math majors, the middle 12 teams, 5 made the playoffs, which is like 42%, which is right in the middle of 60 and 30%, right in the middle, basically. Okay, we ranked 19th. In cap space, we ranked 22nd, and here's why. What they did was, what PFF did is they have a formula to forecast what cap hits are going to be in future years, because not every player that's under contract for 23 is under contract for 24 and 25, right? So what they did is they had a formula set up where they have to be over what the least player is paid, the cheapest player is paid on the 51, and then they just added that amount. So our future cap doesn't look great. Why is that so? We're going to get to that. We're going to get to that coming up. But our future cap space isn't great. It's not terrible. There's a lot of things we can do to help our cap. And I think Ziegler does a good job of manipulating things like that. But right now we have a 22nd amount of cap space for the next 3 seasons. All right. Total prorated money. This is where we rank really good. We rank 6th. Now, what does that mean? Basically, prorated money is dead cap space. Like, how much dead cap are we paying over the next 3 years? We're doing a really good job of bringing that down. We're like the worst this season, but the next 2 seasons after that are going to be really low, where it brings us down to number 6. So we're doing a good job of taking a lot of that dead money out. So what basically is dead money? Dead money is like converted bonuses, basically like a signing bonuses, right? Most of the time, signing bonuses that you break off over years, so you don't have to give the signing bonus all in 1 year. Well, guess what? When dollar amounts are signing bonus, you can't monkey with that. You can't change that. That's going to be, let's say you're getting 12 million over the next 4 years and your bonus prorated. You can't change that $3 million a year. That's going to be $3 million per year no matter what. Whether you're on the team or you're not on the team, it doesn't matter. So let's say you get traded or you get cut or whatever, you still owe that money because that was the bonus that they were supposed to be given up front, but you prorated it. So that's what the prorated money means. So as far as that goes, we have a lot of money. Now, it's not necessarily a bad thing to be high on this list because that means that you're paying, you're giving bonuses to good players and you're keeping good players. Now, if those players are still productive on your team, having a high prorated money is not a bad thing. So like if your veteran evaluation was like in the top 10, but your prorated money was like pretty low, it doesn't matter because you're getting production out of those players that you're paying, right? Okay. Free agent valuation. We rank 16th. Now, what that means is the money, it's a forecasting of the money that we're going to have to spend in free agency moving forward because of the next statistic. And this is the one that really hurts. You've heard me talk about it in the last couple of episodes, but I want to dive into it a little bit deeper. Active draft capital. What does active draft capital mean? It's pretty simple. What active draft capital is your drafted players on your team under a rookie contract. So it's active draft capital. So it's not just draft capital that you've drafted somebody, but like last year or the year before that are still on your team under a controllable rookie contract. We are dead last in active draft capital. As bad as some of you guys want to bang on our current regime, this is not their problem. This is the previous regime's problem. This is a Gruyak problem. So for all you guys out there who wanted to say, oh, well, Josh McDaniels inherited a 10-win playoff team. What happened? Well, I'll tell you what happened. They don't have players under contract that are a good contract deal on the roster. So they had to replace a large amount of players with undrafted free agents, with maybe making rookies play before they were ready, and guys off the streets. Look at damn near a whole secondary. And I'll be honest with you, this is a typical John Gruden like scenario. His teams are fireworks. He hits because he got a lot of veterans on expensive deals, and they hit, pow, and then they crash. What happened the year after the Super Bowl? And then in the year after that, we went steadily lower and lower and lower. And we couldn't really afford to get anybody because our cap was all screwed up from the previous years that we were good, the previous couple of years. What happened in Tampa? He takes over a team the first season. primarily with a team that wasn't his, wins the Super Bowl. Good for him. He got there and he won. Okay, great. What happened the next year? Lower and lower and lower, because he kept monkeying with the roster and he kept giving deals that he shouldn't have been given and playing players that he shouldn't have paid and paying guys big money. Dude, if Gruden, I saw a tweet, if Gruden and Mayock were still the coach and GM, they would have given Josh Jacobs a 4-year, $80 million contract. Great. That's great for the players. They want to play for him, right? But guess what? You can't afford very many players giving out these contracts like that. And it's a tough situation when you walk in and you're like, wow. Because look, you guys need to understand something here. And it took a while for me to wrap my head around this. Coaches think about the next season. GMs think about 3 to 5 seasons. So when a GM comes in and he looks at, so PFF, this is not anything that's like groundbreaking to the guys in the NFL. People in the NFL have been looking at shit like this. He walks in and he's like, mother of God, we're in pretty bad shape in the next few years because we don't have a lot of young guys on our team that are on controllable, decent rookie contracts that are doing anything of value for us on this team. Just is what it is. So that may change your idea and your thinking about how much leash we should give this regime. It may not. I'm not here to tell you it should or it shouldn't. I'm telling you the absolute facts. These are numbers that are not disputable. Okay? So this isn't about JMD and Ziegler losing the locker room. This isn't about them, being too hard and being too this. This is about not having the number of players on rookie deals contributing to your team. It doesn't go any further than that. You can make it about something else if you want, but it isn't. Let's look at this. So they use what's called the Fitzgerald-Spielberger scale. Basically what that is it assigns a number amount to every player drafted by you per their position and if they're still on your team. Okay, just for an example, last year, Bryce Young, the first overall pick, is worth 3,000 points. Okay. And then every pick lower than that gets less and less and less. So the gap between the team with the most active draft capital and between number 31, so 1 to 31, was almost 12,000. It was like 11,973 points. So an average of like almost 386 points. Okay. So the average gap between 1 and 2, 2 and 3, all the way down the line is a little less than 400 points. Okay. The gap between number 31 and us at 32 was 1,800 points, 4.5 times the average gap. And that's the nearest bad team, right? If we took between 1 and 30, it wouldn't be 400 points. The gap would be a lot smaller, okay? This is an issue of drafting and development more than anything from the previous regime. Because last year, we didn't get a lot of points for last year's draft because we didn't have a first and second round pick. But, I mean, our other picks played. Britton Brown didn't play, but, he played special teams. Zeus got special teams, and he got some carries. Parham played at damn near every single snap. Munford played a bunch. Like, we had players that played that we drafted. We just didn't have a first and second round pick because, hell, I'd give up those first and second round picks all day for Devontae Adams, right? So I'm not tripping on that. But, dude, the previous years, we have to take a look at this situation for what it is, not for what we want it to be. I hear it all the time. And Rory, I fucking love you, freaking limey bastard, you. But he's always like, they took over a 10-win playoff team and they turned into shit. Well, maybe the roster was built to be shit after that season because of stuff like this. All right. It gets me a little heated. Now, with all that being said, now that we know the state of our roster and the state of what we need to do to build this roster from underneath, take a look. Take a look at what we talked about in the beginning with Josh Jacobs. Now you have a little bit of a more clear understanding about maybe why Ziegler isn't super pumped to give Josh Jacobs a groundbreaking deal, because the rest of his roster is not in very good shape for the next 3 seasons. It's shitty, man. It's really shitty to think about, but honestly, when we got Gruden in 18, we knew what we were getting into. We were all cool, like not all cool, but like a lot of us were really excited because it's Chucky and he's back and he was a TV personality and Gruden's grinders and all this stuff, right? But maybe we didn't remember, or we didn't want to remember how poor he was at personnel decisions and how poor he was at contracts and negotiation. Like the Littleton contract, goddamn. The Brown contract, fucking hell. Like there was a lot of bad money given out. Freaking trades for Antonio Brown and Octavius Bryant and you're giving away 3rd round picks like for shit like that. Like, dude, you're giving away all your draft capital, man. And you're signing guys like Williams to be a number 2 when he was never more than a number 3 receiver. It's like, dude, what's going on here, man? You're getting guys like Joyner and having them play out of position and Kwiatkowski to be a starter when he never was one, and you're giving all this money to guys like Nassib to be a guy that he never was. And dude, all that stuff counts. When people tell you that the salary cap doesn't exist, it's bullshit. It does exist because of stuff like this. Because sooner or later, this shit's gonna hit the fan. Now, normally, what you would want to have happen is like what happened to like Tampa Bay and what happened to like the Rams. If shit's gonna hit the fan, it's because you went in big and you actually won the Super Bowl. We weren't close to winning the Super Bowl these last 6 years. We weren't, or 5 years, whatever. We weren't close. What we needed to do at that time, when Gruden traded away all of our good players, our 2 of our best, probably 3 or 4 player on the team, we need to use that capital and get smart and get good and strong from within with good, young, affordable talent, and we never did it. We pretty much wasted the entire 19 draft. The 18 draft was suspect at best. We got a couple of players here and there that are still on the roster and producing, but again, it's not about 1 or 2 players here. It's about your consistency. What do you do consistently? And that's where we are right now, guys. This is not information that I'm happy to give you. I'm really not. When I looked at this shit, I'm like, oh my God. It was bad. And I took a little bit of time to make a video about this because I wanted some of the things to calm down temperature-wise, and I wanted to see what the temperature was regarding the feelings about the front office getting closer to the signing deadline or the franchise tag deadline. All right. I hope that makes it a little bit clearer. No. Here's what we do. How do we get out of this? We get out of this by making smart, sound decisions. We get out of this by having productive young players on their team, which means scouting, drafting, and development. So there's 3 Ds. There's discovery, there's draft, and development. That's what we need to do. We need to discover these players, find out what they're all about, find out if they're a right fit for us, find out if they can play football. We need to draft them and get those players on our team. And once they're here, we need to develop them. Now, if a player doesn't want to be on the team, there's not much you can do. If the Raiders, look, let's say, for example, the Raiders don't rescind the franchise tag, and they're like, all right, Josh Jacobs, you got to play on the franchise tag or nothing. That's $10 million of cap space that you can't use this year. I don't want to lose him for nothing. I would rather sign and trade. Or trade with a deal agreed upon. But these are things you have to take a look at. It's not always as simple as, GM bad, player good. Caveman. That's a lot of time. We boil it down to that point, but this roster is not in very good shape. I mean, like someone said here, it's very similar to what Reggie McKenzie had to deal with the first couple years he came on board. He couldn't sign anybody. He couldn't sign a damn soul. That's why we had fucking Mac McLaurin running around fucking throwing passes. Because we couldn't afford anybody. Because the salary cap was so terrible, was such a bad shape, that he had to deconstruct what was wrong to give us space to build up. Now, here's the issue. Our roster is a little unbalanced. Even still, we have an exorbitant amount of money spent on offense and not as much on defense. We're the fifth oldest roster, even though, we don't have a very good grade on our top 51 valuation, our veteran valuation. We're the fifth oldest team. What does that tell you? That tells you, instead of having, again, young, productive players on rookie deals, we have veterans that we had to sign for the minimum, which is, let me tell you, a lot more money than what a rookie makes on a rookie deal. You could probably get 3 rookies for 1 veteran minimum per season. So what does that mean? Older players get hurt more. Older players don't really have a big jump in production. They usually are who they are. And you spend your time developing these players, but you don't see the increase because they've pretty much already topped out. We can turn this around, guys. But the way we have to turn this around is we need to start changing these things now and getting good production from our younger players in their first 3 seasons. And it needs to happen now, because we need to see who these players are and build upon them so we can let some of these older players walk and backfill with lower price free agents, maybe one higher price free agent here and there, one on each side, maybe, but also get younger players from the draft to backfill. It's the way the good teams in the NFL do it. You have your cornerstone pieces and you backfill around it, and you don't pay peripheral players huge money because you can develop. You're already developing guys underneath them. All right, guys. I know this isn't the most positive of broadcasts that I'm giving you, but I'm not going to lie to you guys. This is the information that I was given, and I wanted to give you guys a little bit of perspective on what we're looking at, and maybe it'll change a little bit of how you feel about the team. Maybe it won't. I know it changed a little bit about how I felt about the contract negotiations with Josh Jacobs. And then, there's the reports that he doesn't want to sign with the Raiders. He wants to be released, or he wants the tag rescinded so he can be a full-on free agent and sign wherever the hell he wants. Who knows if that's true or not? I don't know if that's necessarily true. I think he does want to stay with us, but you never know. All right, guys, what questions do we have here? Andrew Evenstar, hell yeah, perfect timing for me. Enjoying a cold one. Nice. Nice. Let's see what else we got down here. Let's see. Oakland fan. It's a shame the Raiders had 47 picks from 2016 to 2022, and only 8 are starting and 4 maybe fringe guys. There it is right there, guys. There it is right there. You can't sugarcoat that. Raiders 805, good show. The fans needed that type of information. Honestly, look, again, I'm not here to change anybody's mind. I'm here to give you guys perspective. I'm here to give you guys, straight up information, data. It's not opinion, this is data. And give you guys something that you can look at when you're judging decisions that the Raiders are making. Because again, I think for too long we've been in, lightning in a bottle mode. That's John Gruden, lightning in a bottle. Let's make these weird, dumb decisions for this season. Who cares about next season? We'll worry about that when it comes. Senkel Grizzly Raider. Juan, off topic, but what are your top 3 horror flicks of all time? Ooh, I'll tell you something right now. I liked Insidious, the first one. I don't know if you call that a horror flick, but dude, I don't know what it was. Maybe because I was high as shit when I saw it. But the first Saw movie in theaters fucked me up. Like, because it was too real. Like just a guy putting people in like homemade like death traps, and having them get out. I don't know, man. That kind of freaked me out for whatever reason. And what else is the horror movie that I really like? I don't know, man. I mean, I like the old school It. That was a good one. American Werewolf in London's a good one. I was a little kid when that shit came out, and that shit freaked me the hell out. Yeah, The Ring was a good one too. But I'm telling you, man, Saw got me, dude. When I fucking watched that shit, I was probably like 20 when it came out, maybe. Something around there. 21, 22, something like that. I left the theaters and I was looking around the corners like, dude, is someone gonna fucking pop me with a freaking needle and knock me out? I'm gonna wake up in some freaking bullshit maze or something. Yeah, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That's more of like a softcore porno, dude. There was like chicks running around naked up in that thing all the time. Yeah. Those are some of my good horror movies. I don't watch a lot of horror movies, honestly. Like my life has been a horror movie for a few years. So I like watching a lot of comedy. I like watching stand-up. I like watching funny movies, stuff that I can get lines from, movies that I can quote. Those are good ones. What else we got here? Let's see here. Neil Buckeye, that's hilarious. If Jacobs is unhappy with this past offseason, yet was perfectly fine with all the dog shit off seasons under the previous regime. Well, he was under contract. He had guaranteed money coming in, and honestly, that's pretty much it. Because guess what, Devontae Adams, he said he wasn't too happy about the offseason, but guess what? He got that guaranteed money, so he's gonna suit up. He was there, Let's see what got down here. Jason Marshall, when was a kid, the Leprechaun got me. Now when I'm older, it's a comedy horror. Yeah, dude, it's funny how like some of these older movies that like when we were little kids jumping around scaring ourselves and shit, but now we're watching it laughing our asses off. Hilarious. Oakland fan. You said you worked at the LA Coliseum back in the day. Yeah. So when I was probably 8, gonna be 9 years old, because my birthday's in September and college football season starts in August. So late August. So when I was 8, gonna be 9, my godfather, RIP, he sold programs at USC games since because he lived right by the stadium since he was a little kid. So he did it, his entire life. He just kept doing it. And he knew all the people who were selling the program, this and that, blah, blah. So he got me in because my older cousin, who was like my brother, he went off to college and he played baseball at USC. So he couldn't sell programs and he didn't want to sell programs. And, he wanted to be in the student section watching the game, right? So he was at the school. He was 10 years older than me. So he was 18. I was 8. And they brought me in to sell programs at the games. So that company actually did USC and UCLA games. So that's what I did. I sold programs at the home football games. Gate 23 by the escalator. That was me. Sitting there and just yelling out programs, souvenir programs. And they taught me how to count fast in my head and taught me how to be able to talk to anybody and be more personable, just be comfortable talking to adults as a child. Taught me how to sell, taught me how to push, taught me how to, have goals and set goals for myself and push myself. It taught me how to be responsible. It was a good job, man. I was young though, dude. I was fucking 8, 9. I was 8 years old. That's think of an 8-year-old right now, hand him a freaking stack of books and a wad of cash, and all right, just come back in a couple hours. Yeah, probably not. But yeah, that's where I started working at the Coliseum. Let's see here. Is Peterson still on the Raiders' radar? I think he is. You mean Marcus Peters? Not Peterson. Peters? I believe he is, but I think the Raiders want to get the Josh Jacobs thing under control first before they sign another person, because they can theoretically, right now, Josh Jacobs' cap hit is $10.1 million. If they sign him to a long-term deal, that cap hit, because of bonuses that they can prorate and stuff and stuff like that, stuff that's not cap hit, they can lower that cap quite a bit and have more money to spend on a Marcus Peters, right? So I don't think Marcus Peters has a super high market for himself right now. So I think we're okay with that. I think he's still on the radar. I just think they're just waiting for things to settle with, the whole franchise tag deadline and what's going to happen and this and that. I think the best player to get next season is Marvin Harrison Jr. If we can't get to the playoffs, I hope for a bad season to get him or Williams. Marvin Harrison Jr. would be a good get. The issue that we run into is, who do we have to throw him the ball? I like Jimmy G for who he is, but he is who he is. He's a player with the weapons around him, can get you some good victories. He can get you pretty far. But there's those 1 or 2 throws a game that you got to be special. In the NFL, you have to have a good quarterback on a rookie deal. But if you're a veteran making veteran money at quarterback, you got to be special. You got to be special. What else we got here? Let's see. Juan, what position group on our team are you still the most concerned about? I'm concerned about our secondary, honestly. I'm concerned about the secondary the most, then linebacker. Then interior defensive line, then linebacker. Those are the groups that I'm most worried about. Coincidentally, they're all on defense. I am encouraged by the Marcus Epps signing. I think that he's a solid player. I think he was a little bit undervalued in that Eagles secondary. I think he's just as good a tackler and hitter as Abram was. but I think he's a lot more sound in pass coverage. Even though he's not great in pass coverage, he's a whole lot better than Abram was. So you're getting the good of Abram without the bad. Let's see here. All right, guys. All right, that's my hour. Appreciate you guys very much. Make sure everyone like, comment, and subscribe. Tell your friends, tell your haters, tell your mamas, tell your friends' haters, and your mama's haters, and your haters' mamas, and all that stuff. Tell everybody about the Autumn Wood Bags. We're creeping very close to 6,000 subscribers. We're almost there. We're doing this all on our own. We're not paying anybody. We're not paying for companies to we're not even paying for advertisements or promotions. This is directly on you guys. So appreciate you guys very much. You guys have yourself a good weekend, and we'll see you maybe next week. Dutch Master 710, let's see what he has to say. I think you and RJ are wrong. I think we have a strong cornerback unit. There's no flashy names, but there's going to be hard cuts to make, especially if we sign Peters. We've seen flashes from Webb, Hall. No, I agree. But the thing is you're looking at it in the best case scenario. You're looking at it as, well, we saw flashes from Webb and flashes from Hall. And if those flashes don't not only do those flashes need to increase, but they need to be more consistent for them to be viable NFL starters in the secondary. So that's the thing is, it's not a game of flashes, man. This is a game of consistency. All right, guys. Thank you very much. Again, please like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, guys, peace.